Whether you're hitting the road or kicking back in the cab, it's time to take a load off with Big Rig Banter. Powered by alltruckjobs.com, your source for finding the trucking jobs drivers really want. Get ready to shift into gear and let the conversations roll.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Big Rig Banter, a trucking podcast designed to educate, inspire, and support truck drivers. I'm your host, Maggie Ozella, and today we're talking with Shelley Johnson and Tom Kelley from a popular trucking radio show based in Houston, Texas called TNCRadio.Live. Shelley Johnson is the Vice President of Business Development for TNCRadio.Live and an author, journalist, reporter, and mixed media specialist, and, according to their website, a verbal black belt. Tom Kelley is the managing partner and an entrepreneur, IT executive, technologist, chef, cook, and bottle washer. If you can't tell, I took their bios from the TNCRadio.Live website, and man, are they creative. I think you can all agree with me in saying those bios are super intriguing and immediately open up topics for conversation, which is exactly what they are designed to do. Way to go, TNC Radio team. If you haven't heard of TNCRadio.Live, let me give you a little bit of background. TNCRadio.Live is an online radio station that provides commercial drivers with up-to-the-minute details they need to be safer, smarter, and more successful on the road. And really, it's a great way to keep truckers entertained too. I highly recommend checking out all of their engaging programs throughout the day. Whether you're interested in hearing about weather, sports, or the latest news in the trucking industry, this radio show covers a wide range of topics to keep truckers entertained for hours on end. Without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, everyone. This is Maggie Ozella, and today I have Shelley Johnson and Tom Kelley on the show to talk about TNCRadio.Live. Tom, if maybe you want to start things out, will you please tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the trucking industry?
All right. Yeah. It's interesting. I actually got involved in the rideshare industry. I've been an executive in the IT world for about 30 years. And there was a corporate merger, and they went from 170,000 people down to 70,000 people. And I was on the larger number of that. So I was like, yeah, what do I want to do? And I thought about retirement. I thought about doing a lot of different things. And finally, even though I had never been in a Lyft or never been in an Uber, I decided that's what I wanted to do for a while I figured out what I wanted to do. So I started driving and having a really good time. And it was very interesting to meet all these different people. I met a lot of truckers because a lot of times truckers are taking Ubers from hotels back to the truck stops and those kinds of things. And but it became apparent to me that the guys who were doing rideshare and those kinds of drive, they didn't have the information that they needed. They rarely had a clear understanding on which roads were closed. They didn't know if there were special events in the day. They didn't know that there were 7,000 people getting off two ships tomorrow morning at 8:30 at Galveston Bay, all that kind of stuff. And I kind of became the Shell answer man for everybody. And after a while, decided there has to be a better way to get this information out. So I started, it was about that time too that I read an article somewhere, how it is, when you're flipping around things on the internet and you go from one thing to another and you don't even know how you got there. But I read this article about this kid. I say kid, he was like 30 years old and living in his mom's basement. And he had made $89,000 so far at that point that year playing Led Zeppelin records on the radio.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought, okay, what if I gave people real information?
Sure.
What would happen? So the idea originally for TNC Radio was that we were going to build a station for commercial drivers with kind of a spotlight on rideshare. And I talked to Shelley, was one of the first people I talked to, and a couple of other radio experts and DJs, and we had What else do we have, Shelley? Well, we had a finance guy, and we
Yep.
had a social networking person. So
Yep.
we figured we had all the tools, and we all agreed we were going to launch on March the 24th, and COVID hit.
Yep.
And that pretty much killed the rideshare stuff.
Yes.
It still hasn't come back.
No.
Because there's no ball games, restaurants are small, people are afraid to get in an Uber because they don't know who's going to be driving. Uber suggests in winter that the best thing to do is to drive with all the windows down. They believe that's safe. So,
Okay.
Everybody must wear a mask, and the drivers to put all the windows down. And if it's 45 outside, well, get over it. Turn up the heat. So, it's not going well on that side. In the meantime, we started doing our shows. We went live on July 1st, and we realized pretty early on that we, by looking at all commercial drivers, we caught the attention of some truckers, and then more, and then more. So Shelley started reaching out and talking to people, and realized that there was a niche market here that was not being covered well. And so we decided to shift our focus, still working with drivers, but instead of focused on rideshare, we'd focus on the trucking industry. And it just so happened that had a couple of the other people who worked with us had been truck drivers, and Shelley had a fair amount of experience working with truckers. And so it seemed like a really natural thing. And now it's exploded, and it's going great. We're having a blast. And our only regret was we didn't start with truckers to start with.
Yeah. So Shelley, why don't you kind of jump in a little bit here? And
Sure.
Tom talked a little bit about how you got involved with TNC Radio with him, but it sounds like you had some trucking experience in your past, or, you'd worked in the industry prior. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I was exposed to the trucking industry for over about 15 years, having known a driver. So I learned the jargon and the issues and the trials and tribulations drivers face, the long hours and miles they drive, met a lot of drivers, got to talk to them. And so I got a professional driver perspective, which a lot of people don't get. And that's really helped me tailor the programming and the guests that I have on my show, which is the Truckers Network radio show, and the needs of our driver audience. And I think it gave me a whole new insight into a world most people don't think about. So I really knew that there was a need there. And it was just a matter of providing the programming. If you build it, they will come, that sort of thing.
Yes, absolutely. And it sounds like it's done, very well. So you mentioned that you had originally started in March, and then you pushed it back to July. So since then, have you, how has the audience, have you seen like a steady increase in the audience increasing, or kind of how's that been?
Yes. Well, when we first started, it was more in the Houston market, and now we're across country and even into Canada. We have listeners in various states, which is awesome. And of course, depending on the topic, you have different listeners from different places. So we provide a wide variety, and it's a lot of fun. And having had a broadcast background and so forth, I'm having a blast. I like to say I used to get in trouble for talking, and now I get paid for it.
I love that. Oh, that sounds like, I was on the show prior, a couple weeks back, and it was an absolute blast working with you and Tom. I had such a good time on the show. So I definitely can attest to, the show being lots of fun. And I'm sure you have lots of interesting topics that you guys talk about, and exciting topics that are, something that anybody that's interested in the trucking industry could really, take a listen to. So.
Oh, absolutely. And we cover all kinds of different things, with nonprofits, and we have veterans out there. And so I like to cover that. We had Reads Across America. There's so many things and in so many groups. And I'm having so much fun doing a lot of research on what I can provide and what we can provide to really help the drivers out there.
So that kind of plays into a question that I want to ask. What's the ultimate goal now with it?
Well, we love our drivers, and we really want to be kind of the source place where they can go to get a lot of information. We've built a lot of different partnerships, and we've even helped our partners meet each other because we find that, oh wow, she doesn't know that person, and if she knew him, they could both grow. And so we've really had a lot of fun putting this together and working with the partners to give the drivers a lot of different types of information. That's what we want to continue to do, with the belief being, of course, that the more people listen, the more our advertisers will spend. And so, we're not doing it for free, hopefully, not for the long term.
Right.
But, you start off and you start building great programming, and, programming's king. And if you do it right, a lot of people will show up.
Absolutely.
So what would you say is kind of the most popular show that you guys have on the show?
Shelley's show's doing great right now. The Truckers Network radio show that we do every day at 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern time. Be sure to tune in. Oh, sorry, did I throw that in there? That show's going very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
We have we try to do a lot of live stuff, whether it's through our partners or through our affiliate with USA Radio. So we start off in the morning talking about traffic issues, somewhat in Houston, but if there's something going on elsewhere in the United States that's a big issue, let's say a blizzard or a hurricane or something like that, we'll give a lot of information about that area and what's going on with the road conditions there. And we do some fun stuff. We do one in the morning called the Kovacic Controversy, hosted by Jim Kovacic, one of our guys, where we take on the issues of the day. Today we talked about impeachment, and we talked about the big trade that the Rockets just made. And I think we talked about who was faster, Superman or Flash. So we take on all the really difficult issues of the day.
Yes.
And we have a great time with that. We have partnered with you and others to pull some of the best podcasts together. 30 million podcasts. Most truckers don't have time in the evening to sit down and figure out what they want to listen to tomorrow. So we do it for them. Set up some podcasting that they can listen to and that will relate back to what they're doing. And then in the evenings, similar. Shelley and I host a show looking at Houston traffic and weather and national traffic and weather. And then, in the evenings too, we've got Dan Cilio for doing sports talk. Yeah. So, a lot of good stuff.
And trucker music and comedy. We're trying to really make the ride when they're doing their job maybe a little more pleasant, lowering their stress, giving them the information they need, because they really need that.
Yes. And it sounds like, when you and Tom were just talking about some of the stuff that you have on your show, you guys really cover a wide range of topics, everything from potentially what's going on politically to just, traffic and weather and sports, So I think that that's really great that you're not really necessarily focused on one specific area that you only talk about all the time. So, maybe drivers that are more interested in sports turn into that, segment versus other segment. I think that's really great that you guys have such a wide range of topics that you cover.
And it's fun. I'm learning as I go along too. I mean, for instance, we had a guest on the Truckers Network radio show who owns combatbraintraining.com. So it was a way to train your brain and improve your neuroplasticity. And of course, we didn't talk in big fancy terms all the time, but we were, how you can improve your memory and thinking and all of that. I mean, all of this, it's interesting. And health and food and diet and you name it, we talk about it. And it's been a lot of fun.
One of the other questions that I wanted to ask you guys, so obviously we talked a little bit about COVID pushing back the start date for this show. What other challenges, if any, have you faced, in the startup of TNC Radio?
You know what, we came in with a great advantage having a mix of people. I had not been in the radio industry before, though many had challenged me over the years, saying, hey, you ought to be on radio. But I was really into all the IT and computer stuff and all of that. So I brought in, some technical knowledge, and then another guy had done, he was really great with numbers and all that kind of stuff. So he brought in the finance knowledge, and Shelley and several others brought in radio knowledge. So it wasn't a challenge so much as it was interesting to watch as we pulled all that together into, one working organism, if you will.
Sure.
And
Achieving a symbiosis.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So getting everybody together. Not a challenge so much as it just took some time, and we learned from each other. And there's a whole lot of the behind the scenes stuff that the radio voices don't care so much about. And other times where I'm going, hey, we got to try this. And they all kind of laugh at me and go, you don't know anything about that. Don't even think about it. And that's okay too. And sometimes I throw out these, I'll have this great idea and I'll throw it out there and everybody goes,
it just falls flat.
Not spent 30 years in radio. Okay. So, that's good. It's what's making it work.
And we're also always encouraging listeners to say, hey, this is what we'd like to hear. We feedback is what we need. That's how you grow, and that's how you provide a product that people want.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And you guys are, having only started really in July, that you had, you're so young in your growth cycle that getting that feedback is so crucial to hearing back from truckers and commercial drivers. What are you interested in? What do you want to hear more of? What works? What doesn't? So I think that's really great that you guys are open to those kind of conversations. Outside of that, we've talked a little bit about this, but what are some of the biggest rewards that you guys have experienced since kind of the start of TNC Radio?
We've been helping nonprofits. I felt so good with some of the nonprofits we had on. Case in point, the Truckers Christmas Group. They launched a fundraiser, and of course, they had a lot of challenges. 2020 did not provide the networking that and the traditional ways that a lot of the nonprofits were able to reach people, and we were able to assist with getting the word out and some live events and that sort of thing. And they were able to meet and surpass their goal. I mean, I was just over the moon on it. It was just so cool. I love to help. And I think that's one of the biggest rewards. And certainly meeting some really awesome people, interviewing them on my show. I enjoyed that.
We connected because of Tom from Truckers Christmas Group. So
Yes.
I thought that was really great. So,
Yeah.
It was really great to interview him on our show as well and, get to know him. He's a great personality.
Yes,
so
he is.
I agree though, seeing them kind of surpass their goal was quite exciting for us as well. So I definitely agree with you there. We haven't really talked about how listeners can tune in. What do they tune in? How do they tune in?
Oh, it's very easy. The easiest way, of course, is just come to the website, TNCRadio.Live. We have a Facebook page and a Twitter, same name. And also you can download an app if that's your preference. That's available on the Google Play Store. And I don't know, Shelley, we're probably on more than 30, maybe as many as 50 radio directories now.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're pretty easy to find. It's interesting at first, just like everybody else who has their name in the phone book or whatever, you type in the name and it doesn't even pop back up. And it's like, okay. And now you type in TNCRadio.Live in Google and pops right up and tells you how to reach us and gives you information on the station. It's all good stuff.
And we have an app. So everything's just one touch.
Perfect. And is your app just called TNC Radio?
It is. And from the app, you can easily listen to our station, but you can also listen to other things as well, including Houston Radio Platinum, which is a good friend of ours and gives you the best in 60s, 70s, and 80s best hits and that kind of stuff. And we're continuing to work with others. I imagine we'll add more stations on there too.
And the Truckers Network's also on the app. We kind of co-brand and co-partner with them on the Truckers Network radio show, so people can go over to their website as well. But the app's available on our website, downloadable, and you can go to Google Play Store as well as Amazon. So there are a lot of places where you can just download it.
Yeah,
one
you can listen
touch.
to us on Alexa and all, that kind of stuff as well.
Yep.
Great. So it sounds like it's really easy to reach you guys and to listen in.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And we want to make it that way so the drivers can focus on driving. They have enough distractions.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, and that's kind of what's different about our app and our approach that some people may pick up on is we really try very hard not to send anything to read, because we're assuming that for the most part our listeners are driving. And so, we don't want to send them a big long, hey, you need to read all of this, because they don't have time. So we try to, what's your quote, Shelley? You say it better than I do.
Keep your eyes on the road and your ears on us.
There you go.
Oh, yes. I like that. So, that kind of wraps it up and is bringing us to the end of our interview today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners about TNC Radio today?
Just that we really have appreciated. We're very, very grateful to so many people who've been a big help to us. Shelley has done a fantastic job, and we've been very excited about the way everything's gone so far. And we're just going to keep pushing and make it better and better.
Yeah, we've got a great team. Ron Samuels and Jim Kovacik are on the air too, and we couldn't do it without them. They're tremendous talent. Ron actually worked for Wolfman Jack, which is pretty cool, and he's been in major radio, and Jim's been major radio in Houston for years. So we have so many people that come to the plate, and I'm excited. This is a lot of fun.
And last but not least, if listeners are interested in connecting with you, what's the best way to do so?
They can send us email at info@TNCRadio.Live, or of course visit our website, which has a couple of different ways to contact us depending on what their needs are.
And thanks again, Shelley and Tom, for coming on the show today to talk about TNCRadio.Live. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having us.
If you're interested in learning more about TNCRadio.Live and how you can tune in, be sure to check out the show notes for more information. Before wrapping up the show today, I want to send out a massive thank you to everyone that has reached out to us about being on Big Rig Banter. We've had dozens of serious inquiries reach out to us over the past few weeks, and it's been absolutely amazing. Please keep it up. If you haven't reached out to us yet but want to be considered for being on the show, you can send me an email at podcast@bigrigbanter.com and share your story with me. Last but not least, if you're interested in following us on social media, be sure to search for our handle, Big Rig Banter, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Until next time, keep on trucking.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Big Rig Banter. For your next job, check out alltruckjobs.com, the premier online source for finding the best driver jobs in the country. Browse hundreds of positions by freight or driver type to get back on the road with confidence. Click subscribe to keep the conversations coming. Until next time on Big Rig Banter.